Welcome to FreeMMOStation. I'm Skyland Shore, and today I'm going to give you my first impression on Hi-Rez's new free-to-play character shooter, Paladins.
FreeMMOStation.com.
So, yeah, Paladins is in beta. Keep that in mind. You're going to see a lot of textures being a little bit rough, and you're going to see a lot of art borrowed from Smite. And I don't know if these voice actors or this art or exactly what in this game is temporary or not, but, maybe it's safe to assume that some of it is. I'm just saying, beta's beta. A lot can change. But if you do want to get into the beta right now, you have to either be invited or you buy the Founders Pack for $20 US. Just a warning though, if you are in the beta, invited or otherwise, it is actually a limited time, so it's only from 12 p.m. to midnight. But don't fear guys, I'm pretty sure that they're going to open up the game pretty soon here for testing. It seems like they really want to get the community involved with their crazy ideas. There are some really interesting mechanics and they need a huge amount of balancing and testing. And so yeah, they need us, the players, to help them out. I mean that in both a good way and a bad way. I think the game really could go in some really original directions. However, it's just like weird, like playing the game. There's like so many fun mechanics, true fun, but also maybe non-competitive. Yeah, I'll have to honestly admit that I don't know exactly where this game is going, the direction that it's heading exactly, what niche it's truly filling. I think it's probably going to be something like Smite, where it is both incredibly casual and also does have a high-end competitive scene, but currently in the beta, there is the only one game type, 2 maps, very limited hero pool, champions as they are called in this game. I don't have access to all the cards, and overall, just the feature set of Paladins is incredibly bare bones, so I don't have access to test or be able to tell where Paladins is heading. But I will say that this is a first impressions of a beta, very limited beta, very bare bones beta at that. So keep that in mind. Okay? Yeah? Thanks. I can tell you that currently there are 2 maps, 1 game type, 8 characters, the 8th is coming soon. I was able to test the first 7 extensively, and it is completely focused on team orientation, as well as the game having the gimmick of being a first-person shooter with characters, and also a card draw system. And we will go over all of this in detail real quick, but I first want to talk about the characters, because in this genre, that is the most defining trait of any of these games. And Paladins, coming from Hi-Rez, Smite, we expected some really outrageous, larger-than-life, but still very human characters, and that's exactly what we got. We have, in fact, Fernando, the self-appointed knight. We have Cassie, the hunter's daughter. Grok, the lightning orc. Barik, the ruins raider. Sky, the twilight assassin. Ruckus, the worst of friends, apparently is his title. And Pip, the fire thief, completely inspired by Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously. And that's kind of true for all these characters. You can obviously see the inspiration for them, and that's not just aesthetics, but also mechanics. This is good and bad. If you like larger-than-life characters that have some humanity put into them, like Smite, there is a little bit of humor to be appreciated with that, then you're gonna have fun with Paladins. If you like wholly original characters that have like their own branching storylines, like maybe they have unique races and stuff like that, Paladins isn't gonna be that. I mean, most characters are straight up human or very usual orc, elf, a little raccoon dude. Like, nothing's truly unique or outrageous like what we would see in maybe Overwatch or maybe in like League of Legends especially. But then again, if you can come into this game looking at these characters with a little bit of humor in mind, you're gonna have a lot of fun just like you did in Smite. But specifically, every character has a primary weapon, which has a single type of fire, a single primary fire. There's no alternate fires, there's no mechanical combos like rocket jumping or anything like that. And then you have 3 abilities. That's right, only 3 abilities with no passives or anything extra, no ultimates or anything like that. Just 3 usual, normal, cooldown, limited abilities. And there's no ammo. Some characters do need a reload, but just like Overwatch, no ammo system. Yeah, if you just kind of look at the design of these characters entirely, their mechanics, how they only have 3 abilities, how there's no ammo system, how the weapons are really straightforward, incredibly simple, that's going to be kind of the philosophy for the entirety of the game. In every single aspect, it is just incredibly straightforward. So it's really easy, intuitive just to jump in, play any of these characters, probably very likely fill their role, their niche. It's just like instantaneously you pick it. It's so honestly cliche that anybody from any sort of background will be able to jump in and probably perform just fine and have fun doing it. The thing though that's going to take a little bit of learning, and I have to admit that I'm still kind of vague on the idea and the concept of it, is the RNG, the deck system, the randomness of drawing cards, picking cards, and the whole deck building thing. Because like I said previously, I don't have access to deck building. I don't have access to the competitive game mode either, where everyone plays with their configured decks. I don't have that. I have no idea how successful that's going to be. All I know is that, yeah, right now it's fun, chaotic, silly, ridiculous, But if you want to come into the game as a competitive minded, it's super random. Like, you could draw sometimes like super amazing cards level 1. Sometimes you don't get any of the cards that you were planning on, and you have to sort of change your entire playstyle based on the cards that you were given. So yeah, randomness is an issue, at least probably until we can make our own decks. You actually get these cards after winning matches. You get like a card a match, and you can also purchase the different chests. They have like the wooden chest, you have the radiant chest, then you have a third chest, which I have no idea how many cards that gives, but the radiant chest at least gives 6. And if you buy the $20 package, you get like 20 of those chests, so that gives you like a million bajillion cards. Either way though, there is a lot of RNG in just getting the cards, and then when you get into the match, after you even build your deck supposedly, then you still have the RNG of actually drawing 3 cards, picking one, and hoping that it's, you know, good enough to kind of counter what the enemy team has drawn into. And, you know, you don't have that sort of mini game in like a MOBA where you pick items to sort of best fit your character, or maybe be a little bit more flexible so that you can counterpick somebody else and sort of go against them. So yeah, these cards just kind of change stats. They don't really give you entirely new abilities or anything like that. Like a lot of times in like League of Legends or Dota 2, there's so many active items that can change your character dramatically. These, yeah, they change your character and they change your role, but they're not going to change the game feel. They're not going to change the mechanics generally. Some might give you double jumps on a jump ability, or they might add slows to your primary attack, but they're not going to give you like an entirely new weapon or an entirely new skill. They can change how you play, but it's not to such a dramatic effect as what we are used to in MOBAs, which this genre very much borrows from. So, you know, that's just a word of warning. The card system is really cool, but it just so heavily affects stats, and it so heavily affects what you potentially can do. Like, if you're a damage dealer, you need to be focusing on getting the max amount of damage. But since RNG is such a, you know, big component, it's not always possible to get the most optimum damage, which is like the primary role of a marksman or ADC. Of course, though, I don't know the rules or anything. Like, I don't know how this game is played competitively. I don't know if you need like 2 supports, a tank, and, you know, etc., etc. I don't know that kind of stuff. But still, I imagine that there is some sort of meta, and in that meta, there's going to be somebody that needs to do damage, and you just simply can't do that. So that's the only role I can think of. And maybe tank. You know, sometimes you need to be as healthy as possible, as beefy as possible, and you're just not going to draw those cards. Of course, you can counter that by actually making your deck and just filling it to the fucking brim with tank cards. So I imagine the game still has potential for being competitive, but right now in the beta, for what I've experienced, let me reiterate on that, I just want to say that the game is super RNGesus, super random, and that can be fun, that can be silly, but if you're competitive minded, you might not like that, you might disagree. Alright, so let's fill in some of the cracks of my first impression here. I think that the game mode is super simple, it's basic, of course that goes with the design philosophy, but basically you have these 3 potential capture points, and only one can be active at any time. So yeah, everyone just bum rushes the capture point whenever it turns active, and then if you get to 100 points, and you get more points by more people standing in the capture point thing, so you want to get to 100, and once that happens, you summon for your team a siege machine, and this thing plows through the map, and then will hit the enemy base. The enemy base, though, just like your base, you know, exactly the same, is gonna have 3 doors. 1 door, 2 door, and then the final door is called a vault. This is the main objective. Now, you as a player can actually damage these doors if your siege machine is near them and actually attacking them. Do you want to attack enemy people who are hitting the siege machine, or do you just gun it and hit for the doors? The siege machine does a lot of damage, it's got a lot of health. I think generally everyone just kind of hits the door. But when you get to the final door, the final vault, once you take that down instantaneously, you win the game. That's pretty much it. It's very simple, straightforward. I mean, the entire game is really, but all you do, go to the objective, go to the capture point, capture the point, or let it captured, whatever. If you suck, I don't know. And then you have to either defend the siege machine or escort it to the vault. Push through the doors. You can actually damage the doors if your siege machine is there, and you just, I mean, that's it. It's very simple, straightforward. There's only, at any one time, there's only ever one objective, one thing to do and focus on. You might have different ways of doing that with some different characters, maybe some slightly varying roles, but for the most part, it's very straightforward, very simple, at least with this one game mode that we have available now. I imagine, though, in the future, there might be some slight complexities added in, maybe some different objects added into the maps that make it a little bit awkward to move around the terrain, but for the most part, like, all the maps are rather flattish. I mean, there is a little bit more verticality than, like, in Smite, which has 0. There is, like, 1, 2, I don't know, 3 floors in some different areas. For the most part, it's actually rather flattish, you know, it's nothing crazy ridiculous like in Overwatch or like normal arena shooters like Quake or Unreal or something. Nah, you don't got that. A lot of the gameplay is very, just horizontal, so you don't need to worry about anything crazy, ridiculous happening. The map design overall is very simple, and just like every other facet of the game, just expect a kind of streamlined, simpler, casual experience. So that's that. If anything I missed, hopefully you can glean it from the footage on the screen. I think it's a fun game, and whenever it finally does fully release, I think it probably could compete with the others in the genre. I think it's pretty obvious what target audience it has in its sights, but I think it's also going to be such a fun game that it won't alienate anybody, just like Smite. Hopefully it can hit both the casual and the hardcore crowd. As long as they put love and polish and constantly update it like they have Smite, then it's probably going to do great. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Skyline Shore with FreeMMOStation.com, always giving you the news on the newest free multiplayer games. And if you like my voice, you want to see more content on Paladins specifically or other games of this genre, that's what my personal channel is for. It's all I do, and I have a lot of fun with it. Like, subscribe, check out the site, whatever, guys. Just come back, and I'll see you again next time.